Yes, Ernie? Yeah, you seemed like you had
No,
another question.
I was just going to ask you about the tissue salts that you recommended as well.
Yeah, I find that we can get the multi-minerals into ligaments and stuff much better if we take the multiple tissue salts. So traditionally you'd only need Cal Fluor, Cal Sulf, and Cal Phos. But I find if I'm doing more than two, I might as well do them all anyway. Because the Mag Phos might be necessary here too. So you just might as well do a multiple tissue salt, all 12. It's cheaper.
Is that in a tablet form?
Usually it's in a dissolvable homeopathic. Sometimes you can get it in liquid form.
Is it only homeopathic?
Yeah, it is a homeopathic. It's kind of a quasi-homeopathic. It's about 12x. But the one that we use the most is Highlands, but there's many different companies you can get. Yes?
Oh, my question was just on that, why you would do the Highland homeopathic tissue salts versus multi-mineral complex and a multi.
Well, I find the multi-minerals work better if you have the tissue salts with them. At one point in time, we had a multi-mineral on the market. We had, instead of the 12 tissue salts, we have 17 tissue salts in it. But when we amalgamated with another company and they had a chelated multi-mineral, we stopped producing ours. But I find that we can actually get the absorption and or utilization of the minerals better if the tissue salts are with it. And we can do them as separate tablets. You kind of ionize it at the etheric level. Remember last week we were talking about the etherics? Well, this is kind of a 6 to 12x area, which is kind of the etheric area, so it works more on the blueprint. And it's not the same as a full homeopathic. But now we've got the trameal from a homeopathic point of view. We've got the tissue salts almost from a etheric or a specific point of view. And we've got the actual minerals from the physical point of view. Yes?
So the tissue salts are good for absorption of the minerals. And
that's the easiest way to say it. They're good for the absorption of the minerals, but I think it works on a metabolic function and almost a blueprint function better than just absorption.
I was using them when I did have gout. I no longer have it. I think I've cured myself. But I was using tissue salts, and apparently what they do, they fool the blood. They neutralize, in the case of gout anyways, the uric acid in the tissues.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The tissues can now go into the blood and exit the
Yeah,
body.
so it kind of tricks it in a way. I agree when you're talking to gout, but I'm of the opinion of watching these things over the years. We try to rationalize a physical three-dimensional science on something that's not really three-dimensional anymore. So to say exactly the mechanism, how it works, is at the very most hypothesis. They're mysterious, but they work.
And they adjust your pH as well.
They adjust your pH. They do all kinds of things. So I'm a big supporter of the tissue salts and all kinds of things, especially when there's ligament and or bone injury. But they work on other things too, yes?
Would you also recommend something that promotes circulation, maybe topically or orally?
Well, the trameal will do that. So I don't know if we need anything else. Certainly, later on down the line, we might want to do some extra cleansing to make sure that there's not a bunch of stuff that's grabbed into the area.
And, okay, the MSM, glucosamine sulfate, when would you?
I would only use that actually if I start to see there's inflammation.
Okay.
If there's inflammation, glucosamine sulfate and MSM are indicated. If there's no really inflammatory area there, we wouldn't need it. Another thing we might want to remember is those synovial membranes are really heavily oiled, and so we want essential fatty acids. Fish oil, krill oil, blackcurrant oil, maybe hemp oil, something like that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes?
For spontaneous bruising in fingers and toes,
So spontaneous bruising, but just in the fingers and the toes.
mainly hands and feet, yeah.
Mainly hands and feet. Well, spontaneous bruising anyway usually is a bioflavonoid issue. Of course, it could be an indication of something else, but usually it's a bioflavonoid area. It also would happen in the hands and the feet a little bit more, or should I say the peripheral areas of the body, especially when people have low blood pressure or poor circulation. So you're just not getting enough stuff around those areas, so the capillary beds are not functioning properly. So lots of times I just use vitamin C with bioflavonoids. And we've got one called C Herbaplex for that. Or you might want to take extra bioflavonoids along with a vitamin C to be able to help the area. If that doesn't work good enough, we would use a herb that promotes peripheral circulation. Anyone think of that? Ginger. Ginger tea is extremely good for peripheral circulation. So to take that along with the bioflavonoids, it would help be able to get things out to the exterior areas. But sometimes hot and cold therapy will work to get that. And again, let's not sell short the Traumeel. Traumeel is really good for being able to heal various microcirculation issues, especially in the peripheral areas.
And Traumeel internally?
You could use it internally, but in this case, probably the ointment is a little bit more important. Yes?
On the subject of ginger, what are your thoughts on the effectiveness of crystallized ginger?
What is my feelings of the effectiveness on crystallized ginger, meaning like those ginger candies you find in Chinatown or whatever? They're actually quite effective. I still think that ginger tea is your best bet, but lots of times ginger tea is not very convenient. So I've had a lot of people get travel sickness, and it's not like they're going to take out their Bunsen burner and make some ginger tea while they're on a plane at 5 kilometers above sea level. But to suck on a crystallized ginger candy or whatever seems to work really, really well. So, yes, there's sugar. Yes, there's a whole bunch of stuff that might be bad with crystallized ginger. But in general, it's been very therapeutic. But I've seen people who are flying, and even ginger ale will work to a degree. So it's partly the flavor, partly the whole thing. But the crystallized ginger seemed to be even better, especially for nausea and things like that. It's not going to be as good for peripheral circulation, but it'll still work. Any other questions?
Again, back to my question, should cayenne be then avoided?
Should cayenne be avoided? No reason to avoid cayenne, but it's more of a direct stimulant than a diffusive stimulant, so it doesn't usually help the circulation in the peripheral areas. But it's got a lot of carotenoids in it and some flavonoids in it.
So it won't hurt?
No, the cayenne's not going to make it worse, no. Absolutely not. It's going to help circulation in general. And again, it really depends. If the person has quite low blood pressure, that's part of the issue. So you might want to have something to raise blood pressure. One of the typical ones for that is broom. It's used for raising blood pressure.
Which one's
Broom, Scottish broom, yellow flower.